cleaner's glass was white with steam, the street outside was gold, and July hung in paper slips on wires neatly rolled. You stood beside the pressing board with starch upon your hand, the tickets clipped by number there, the suits in quiet bands. A woman brought a sailor blouse, a boy asked after cuffs, and from the back the iron breathed its little clouds of love. He came in near the closing hour, his hat held at his side. The dark suit waited brushed and warm, the collar opened wide. He said he must not keep them long, the church was across town. You found one grain of wedding rice where his left lapel turned down. Brush the lapel clean, brush the lapel clean. Let no small sign of other hands stay where it can be seen. Brush the lapel clean. I watched your fingers know how gently one may send a man where one must never go. You took the bone-handled brush and worked the cloth with care, not smiling at the rice grain, not asking who was there. The shop bell shook once in the heat, a streetcar crossed the square. He checked his watch and thanked you twice for saving him repair. My own brown jacket hung behind the counter, tagged and pressed. I had no cause to wait so long, no stain left to confess. But when you smoothed his shoulder seam and turned the collar flat, I saw how much a practiced hand can give and not take back. It was not envy, I would say, to steam and wire and wool, not envy of a chapel door, a carriage or a rule. But certain grains of ordinary white can show a heart too well. What falls from someone else's day may stay where no one tells. Brush the lapel clean, let the dark cloth lie. Let him reach the wedding steps with nothing gone awry. Brush the lapel clean, no claim, no flower, no tear, only your hand making him ready for another's year. The shop went dim, the iron cooled, the claim slips lost their shine, and on the floor that little grain looked almost nearly mine. The hallway smelled of chalk and paste. The bell had just rung through, and in the nurse's little room, the basin held the blue. You stood beside the medicine shelf with cotton in your hand, a ledger open to the date, a chair too small to stand. The playground dust was on his knees, his pride was worse than skin. He kept his chin set hard and high to hold the crying in. He washed the thumb and turned it slow, not making much of pain. Then blew the iodine dry before it stung again. A ruler tapped beyond the wall, the class began to add. And all at once that quiet room seemed kinder than it had. He tore the gauze in one clean strip, then folded it just twice, and said the bravest boys you knew still had to take advice. He watched you tie the little knot as if it were a prize, then looked at me and looked away with sunlight in his eyes. My errand there was nothing much, a note the teacher sent. I stood beside the open door and forgot the way I went. You wrote his name beneath the line, then gave his sleeve a brush, and sent him back with both hands whole inside the morning hush. The bandage on the thumb, wide against the school day sun, was only meant to hold a hurt till arithmetic was done. The bandage on the thumb, I watched your fingers stay, and learned how softly care can speak when pride is in the way. No one would call it tenderness, a basin, gauze and chair, a boy who fell beside the swings, a nurse with pinned up hair. Yet some small mercies keep their place long after bells have gone. The hand that does not shame the wound, but helps the child move on. The bandage on the thumb, neat beneath his cuff of blue, held more than cotton, tape and thread, because it came from you. The bandage on the thumb, plain as any schoolroom thing, still shows me how a gentle hand can send the hurt back singing. The bell rang out for recess time, the hallway filled with feet, and in your book the morning stayed, recorded small and sweet.
The window kept the city warm. The curtain rose and fell. One yellow bar from out the hall lay on the floorboard still. You'd come in tired and half undressed, and fallen fast asleep. One wrist across your forehead there, as if the day ran deep. The room was small as rented things are small in August heat. A picture chair, two traveling cases, and one soft pair of feet. So I rolled the bath towel tight and laid it to the floor to keep the draft, the light, the talk from reaching anymore. I made a little shore of cloth against the world outside, the towel under the door. Somebody laughed beyond the stairs. A tap kept dripping thin. A woman's heel went past our room. Then nothing else came in. You never stirred except to turn and find me in your sleep. Your hand came searching once for mine and settled there to keep. No vow was spoken in that heat. No moon made silver news. Only a plain white hotel towel and one thing I could do for love when it has had no ease and money's running poor. We'll make a kingdom out of less than most are looking for. So I rolled the bath towel tight and laid it to the seam, and all the hallway with its lamp stopped just outside our dream. The room stayed small, the bed stayed hard, the night stayed hot and sure. Still I have loved few things as much as the towel under the door. By morning it was only cloth beside a scuffed up frame, but all night long it held the dark and let us be the same. Twilight clung to window glass. The floorboards held the blue. A magnolia breathed below, where dawn was coming through. The canvas waited pale and still. The jars were lined in gray. My silhouette beside the pane looked softer with the day. No footsteps stirred the little room. No word had yet begun. Only the rag, the brush, the hush, and one unopened sun. The first gold on glass lay quiet on the jars and wall, and made the little room seem all. The first gold on glass. A teardrop trembled near my hand, then vanished in the light. The rooftops gave their last faint blue the waiting brush. I only stood and knew some gentle things arrive on earth before we ask them to. A reverie moved through the room, so warm, so faint, so slow. The starlight left the window pane to let the morning grow. No serenade came through the street, no banner met the sky, only a little golden hush and one awakening sigh. And then I knew how beauty starts, not trumpets blaze or cry, but where a common pane of glass lets one kind hour go by. The first gold on glass lay quiet on the jars and wall, and made the little room seem all. The first gold on glass. At last I laid the color down. The room grew mild and wide, still one warm line upon the pane kept morning close inside. Twilight leaned on window glass, the cobblestones were bright. A phonograph behind the bar breathed low into the night. The waiter turned the corner lamp and set the chairs in line. The velvet kept a little warmth about your sleeve and mine. You rose as gently as a sigh and reached to take your hat. The rain was silver on the pane, I could not answer that. After the footsteps faded, the rain kept time along the stone and left the little room alone. After the footsteps faded, you crossed the floor in quiet grace, past marble, brass, and bread. A teardrop trembled near my lash, but never fully said. The door gave one reluctant sound, then shut the weather in. And all at once the empty chair looked wider than it had been. softly on the glass, as if to keep you here. No serenade came through the street, no grand goodbye was made, only your footfall on the stones until the sound grew shade. And then I knew how parting works, not always sharp or stern. Sometimes it leaves by little steps that never quite return. After the footsteps faded, the rain kept time along the stone and left the little room alone. After the footsteps faded, the waiter brought the bill at last. The lamps were lowered low. Still on the pane, the rain went on with all I could not show.
The rink had turned the windows white, the benches shone with cold, and every scarf along the rail was red or blue or gold. You stood behind the rental shelf with skates in numbered pairs, a pencil through your auburn hair, a mitten on the chair.
The children crossed the rubber mats with ankles stiff and proud. Their mothers called above the band, the bright brass music loud.
One little boy came limping back, his left foot pulled too sore. You knelt beside the wooden bench and said,
"One loop looser."
You did not laugh at how he frowned or hurry him along,
You eased the lace beneath your thumb
until the tight felt wrong.
One loop looser, that was all you gave.
Room enough for one small foot
To learn how to be brave.
One loop looser.
I watched him find the floor
And thought how gently care can hold,
by holding not so hard.
A girl spun twice and caught the rail,
A whistle clipped the air,
the coca cups went paper thin.
with steam above the stair.
You rubbed the blade with flannel once
Then checked the buckle pin
and sent him toward the silver ink.
to try the turn again.
He fell before the second post.
Then rose without a cry,
You only raised your hand a bit.
as if to tell him why.
My own skates waited by the door, the leather cracked and worn,
But I stayed near the counter still,
to watch the afternoon.
The band began a slower tune.
The lamps came on in rows
You tied another careful bow,
and warmed your fingers close. One loop looser,
nothing grand
enough for pain
to leave a pair of eyes.
One loop looser,
The knot was still secure.
yet something in the way you tied
Made winter less unsure.
Years may take the rink away,
The heater, rails and song,
the rented skates with painted marks,
the mittens left too long.
but not the lesson of your hands.
Plain as a working rule,
What wishes to go farther must not be fastened cruel. One loop looser,
softly at the start,
you gave the boy his balance back.
and never called it art.
One loop looser,
I see it now and then,
the kindest hold in all the world.
let someone move again.
The Sunday lamps were brushed with gold. The rain leaned on the pane. A phonograph behind the room began a soft refrain. You rose as though to say one thing, then only reached your gloves. The waiter passing turned away with all the tact of love. The velvet kept a little warmth, the marble kept your ring. Outside, the cobblestones gave back the weather's silvering. And where your shoulder brushed the chair, the fabric seemed to know how long a room can hold a hush before it lets it go. The chair by the pane still kept the shape of where you were, and made the whole gray hour defer. The chair by the pane. One cup had cooled before my hand, one saucer had been cleared. Your darling still was in the air, though you no longer were here. A pale silhouette crossed the glass, then blurred and thinned in rain, and all the brass and smoke in dusk drew inward with your name. I touched the chair you'd left askew. It answered not with heat, but with that strange and tender chill of something incomplete. No grand serenade marked the door, no teardrops sought the light. You only looked as if to stay, then folded into night. And oh, the quiet power of things that cannot speak yet prove how one small chair beside a pane can learn the weight of love. The chair by the pane still kept the shape of where you were, and made the whole gray chair by the pane. The old tune thinned to whispered dust. The rain grew fine and far. One dim reflection on the glass received a little star. And long after the lamps burned low, and long after the crowd grew thin, my heart went on returning there. The chair, the rain, the pain.
Below, the druggist draws the shade. The stair smells faint of snow. Upstairs, the little signal lamps begin their evening glow. The galoshes by the stove leave commas on the floor. 3 folded slips lie face side down beside the wicket door. You sit before the walnut board with chords in black and red, one sleeve turned back above the wrist, one pencil at the ledge. The county bells come thin and quick. You answer without haste and fit one shining plug to one as neatly as to lace. I came to ask for Dexter 5, a simple call, no more. But heard you say, go on, she's there, and closed the booth door. A mother from the Ridge Road line, a grocer by the square, someone whose voice kept breaking up because the snow was there. You held the circuit breathing soft while all the shops below went dark one after one along the street under the snow. The line stayed open, the line stayed open. Past the hour, the druggist turned his window shade, till every far-off halting word found the ear for which it stirred, and no one had to leave the night half made. The line stayed open, the line stayed open. There are hands that carry parcels, there are hands that hem and mend, there are hands that keep a wire from breaking at the end. You never heard the whole of it, you never asked to know, yet something in the way you waited taught the voices how to go. The line stayed open, the line stayed open, long enough for one last yes and one more county name. And when at last you drew the cord, the room was only wooden board,
without a sign or flame. The line stayed open, the line stayed open. You wound the fallen chords in loops, set both receivers down. The snow kept whitening at the curb, the clock hands crossed the town. I never placed my call that night. I stood until you rose, and all the way home every wire seemed humming through the snow.
Twilight had left the window glass. The cobblestones were bright. A little bell gave one soft sigh and crossed into the night.
The velvet kept the carriage warm, the brass rail held its gleam. My silhouette beside the pane looked thinner than a dream.
We crossed the bridge above the cave, where starlight touched the black,
and every little silver chime seemed like a calling back,
till the bell went faint. The whole dark city seemed to sway and pull old afternoons my way, till the bell went faint. One woman left with parcel string,
one wan man with coat and cane.
Their footsteps found the cobblestones,
then vanished into rain.
I should have kept my hat in hand
and let the car move through,
yet every stop the bell grew small
and sounded more like you.
The window kept one thread of star,
the wires gave back a sigh.
A little hush of reverie
rode softly passing by.
No serenade came through the street,
no voice spoke out my name,
only the rays beneath the floor,
and all the night the same.
And yet I think some partings live,
not in the heart alone,
but in the way one silver note
can make a city known.
Till the bell went faint, the whole dark city seemed to sway and pull old afternoons my way, till the bell final corner took the car. The lamps grew pale and few. Still one last ringing crossed the bridge and traveled on with you.
The dome was dark before the show. The seats held winter air, and on the desk beside the charts, the little stars lay bare. You stood beneath the lowered sky with chalk upon your sleeve. The brass plates stacked in careful piles, too still to quite believe. A row of coats along the rail gave November to the room. And somewhere in the lobby hall, a school bell lost its tune. The children waited 2 doors down, their mittens in a heap, their voices bright enough to wake the painted heavens from sleep. You checked the map, then stopped your hand and frowned, but only slight, for Orion's belt was missing one small borrowed point of white. You found it near the projector base, no bigger than a seed, a white pin fallen from the sky where no one else would heed. You lifted it between 2 nails, then climbed the narrow stair and set it in the velvet dark as if it answered there. A boy outside began to ask if Mars was truly red. The usher hushed the waiting line, the clock moved on ahead. You stepped back once to judge the place, not proud and not for show. And all at once that paper night had somewhere else to go. No one would know the sky had failed by such a little mark. The children would have watched the stars and never missed the dark. But there are hands that mend a world before the lights begin, and give the farthest things their names by putting small things in. Orion was missing only one pale spark, only one quiet point of care against a borrowed dark. Orion was missing. You set the heavens true and made a room of waiting eyes look up because of you. Orion was missing, then found beneath your hand, not moon, not vow, not golden flame, but something made to stand. Orion was missing. I saw the lesson clear. A sky can turn more merciful when someone notices here. The lights went down, the children gasped, the dome began to glow, and in his belt one little star held all the dark in row.
studio front was locked by then. The portraits faced the wall, and underneath the red room lamp the shadows did not fall. You stood beside the chemical trays with water at your wrist, the negatives clipped over string, the air all sharp and still. A family came that afternoon, 3 children, coats and rain. The youngest would not hold his chin, the father smiled in vain. Now one small print lay silver pale, their faces nearly gone, and you leaned closer to the tray as if it could hold on. The timer clicked beside the glass, the sink gave one low sound. You did not lift the paper yet, you let the light stay bound. Hold it in the fixer, not too long, not too soon. Let the faces find their way beneath the little moon. Hold it in the fixer, I watched the picture clear, and saw how carefully a hand can keep the loved ones near. The mother's glove showed first in gray, the baby's ribbon next, a chair leg, then the father's sleeve, then one small dimpled neck. You rocked the tray from side to side with patience in the red, until the blurred and almost lost came living up instead. I came to fetch a passport frame, that was the reason made, but all my errand thinned away beside that shallow shade. You rinsed the print and held it high, then smiled almost surprised, as if a room could give back time when no one advertised. You pegged it gently to the line, still shining from the bath, and 4 wet faces trembled there like breath upon a path. Hold it in the fixer, let the white turn true, let what nearly slipped from sight return because of you. Hold it in the fixer, plain work under red, yet something in that little room refused to lose the dead. Some things vanish quickly there, a blink, a child, a year, a shoulder moved, a mouth half laughed, a father standing near. But once in a while, through careful dark, what almost went away is given back a sharper edge, and somewhere safe to stay. Till the image knows its name, not as it was meant to be, but saved enough the same. Hold it in the fixer, I think of it tonight, your fingers under red room glass, teaching shadow how to light.
elephant house woke before the ticket gates were wide, with straw dust in the rafters high, and October kept inside. She came along the iron rail with apples in a pail. Her sleeves rolled back, her step so soft it hardly touched the scale. The younger ones were restless there, they swung their trunks for more. Their chains rang once against the posts, their shadows crossed the floor. But in the farthest corner stall, where morning entered late, the old one stood and waited still beside the wooden gate. Half an apple later, when the noise had passed, she saved the sweetest broken piece and gave the old one last. Half an apple later, no crowd, no call, no claim, only one hand remembering who answered to a name. The keeper checked the water trough, then brushed the rope aside. A school bell rang beyond the park, the city stretched outside. She split one apple with her thumb, where age had made it brown, then held it up with patient palm and never hurried down. The old one took it carefully, as if the world were thin. Her great gray head bent lower there and trusted what was in. No one was there to photograph, no child was there to see, only straw and iron hooks and one small courtesy. Half an apple later, soft beneath the rind, was not enough to fill the day, but more than being kind. Half an apple later, the house grew still and wide, and all that morning seemed to lean toward what she set aside. Some faith is made of larger things, of vows and bells and art, but some is kept in pails at dawn and carried part by part. The world may feed the young and bright and praise the quick parade, yet love is often what remains when something small is saved. The gate swung open, footsteps came, the children filled the sun, and in the corner, chewing slow, the old one kept that one.
The kettle has forgotten steam, hallway clock speaks low. A phonograph begins to turn where firelight used to glow. You move the mending from the chair. I set the teacups by. The rug lies waiting in the lamplight, like something warm and shy. The rug between us still knows the turn our footsteps choose. Darling, the room grows young again. The rug between us, your silhouette in evening blue falls soft on wall and door. The old waltz comes in thin and sweet across the polished floor. One hand upon my shoulder rests. One sigh becomes a smile, and all the years between our first and this seem less a while. The record hums, the lampshade glows, a spoon gives back a gleam. Outside the winter keeps the street, inside we keep the dream. No ballroom kept us half so well, no grand serenade knew how much one little room can hold when I am here with you. The embers lose their crimson edge, the window takes the night, yet every slow and faithful turn makes plain what time made bright. The rug between us still knows the turn our footsteps choose. Darling, the room grows young again. The rug between us, the record finds its final groove, then settles into rest, and starlight leans on window glass where your cheek lay on my chest. The river had not found its shine. The ropes were wet and black, and fog lay low along the posts where mornings turn men back. You stood beside the ticket chain, with tar upon one sleeve, a pouch of fares against your waist, too still to make believe. The gulls cried over pilings there, a crate slid on the floor, and
warmed every coat along the rail, brought April to the shore. An old man came with one brown cane, his hat held to his chest. The ferry bell had warned us once, the deckhands called the rest. You saw his foot test empty air between the dock and prow, then took the plank with both your hands and laid it gently down. Lay the plank slow, lay the plank slow, not for show and not for thanks, but so the weak may go. Lay the plank slow. I watched the river wait and saw how grace can make a bridge from ordinary weight. The captain checked his pocket watch. A truck coughed near the shed. A woman tied her scarf again and turned her face ahead. You held the rail while he crossed through, not speaking of his pride, then lifted up his market bag and set it just inside. He nodded once and found a bench. The bell rang clear and thin. You pulled the plank back from the dock before the tide came in. My own fare lay warm in my glove, my errand plain and small, but something in that careful pause had changed the landing all. No one will name the river boards, the rope, the chain, the bell, or count the small delaying acts that help a person well. Yet some work holds the world in place by giving time its due. A plank set down before a step, a hand that thinks it through. Lay the plank slow, lay the plank slow, till the hurried morning learns what patient waters know. Lay the plank slow, no ribbon, rose or flame, only a crossing made with care, and no one called by name. The ferry moved, the dock grew pale, the fog began to clear, and on the wet boards where you stood, that quiet bridge stayed near. The rain is fine and slow, the lamps are trimmed with gold, a little silver smoke turns softly in the cold. The waiter sets my tray beside the window bright. Your silhouette goes by, then lingers in the light. Smoke in the lamplight rises where no words drift away. Smoke in the lamplight, the cobblestones below shine dark as velvet seams. A phonograph nearby leans gently through my dreams. The coffee sends its sigh, the saucer keeps its ring. The room grows warm and still, as if it heard you sing. No grand serenade was needed, no teardrop on display. One curl of smoke between us, and all my heart gave way. Smoke in the lamplight rises where no word can stay, makes common hours drift away. Smoke in the lamplight. The rain moves down the pane, the room falls into grace, and one last thread of smoke leaves warmth in your old place.
The lamps came on above the stream, one by one, then two. The river took their trembling gold and pulled it long and blue. The office doors had emptied out in ledgers, hats, and haste. The bridge kept all our weekday feet in one familiar pace. I saw it first before I saw your face against the veil. That length of wool I knew as yours, the scarf on the rail. You always came before I did and leaned there toward the tide, as if the whole day only kept a little room beside. No bouquet bright, no practiced line, no grand and public tale, just evening iron river wind, the scarf on the rail. You'd looped it through the blackened bars to free your hands from cold. One glove around the paper cup, one hand the railing held. The steam went briefly through your hair, then vanished in the dim. And all at once the bridge we crossed each day grew close and warm with him. No promise had to make itself above that traffic hum. We knew the hour, the corner light, the step by which I'd come. And love, when it has learned the week, grows punctual and plain. It hangs its little banner first against the dark and rain. You always came before I did and left one sign in view. So even from the farthest end, the bridge was already you. And still when winter takes the lamps and dusk comes early pale, I think of all that waited there, the scarf on the rail. The river kept on under us, the cup went empty thin. You took the wool back to your throat and tucked the whole sky in.